Okay guys, so welcome to this short tutorial on how to create a navigation bar in CSS and HTML. So the concept of navigation is simply a way to get your users to move between pages or elements in your web page or your website, or to move outside of it. So if you look at our example here, there's a basic nav bar. And if you notice, when I hover over the buttons, they are highlighted. Okay, so in this short tutorial I will demonstrate how you create that nav bar. This is just a basic nav bar. This doesn't have any responsiveness yet. It is strictly basic. Okay, so we begin with our code. So I already have my boilerplate set up, and I want to point out to you that in the head there is some text that I have here, which is very important. There is a description, which is good for search engine optimization, but there is also this target, the meta tag, which declares the viewport, which is the screen on your device, and of course the width of that viewport. So we moving on. So in the body now, I'm going to begin creating my navbar by just basically creating a div. So I'm going to create a div. I'm going to give that div a class of navbar. It can be anything as long as it is connected to what you have in your CSS file. So I'm going to call it navbar. Okay, and in that div, all I'm going to do, I'm going to use the anchor tag to connect the different pages on my site. Now, because I don't have any pages yet, I'm just going to use the href with, of course, the hashtag. Okay, it will be clickable, but it will not go anywhere. So I have my href, and in my A tag, in my anchor, I'm just going to type in home. That's my first page, and then I'm just going to copy and paste that. Easy way out. I'm just going to copy and paste that to create two more buttons for my page. So I have home, about, and finally I have contact. Okay, let me save this, and I want you to look at this side of the screen and notice that we have our three links right here: home, about, contact. But it really doesn't look like this yet. Okay, all we have are just links that are in line. So how do we get it to look like this? We get it to look like this through styling. Plain and simple styling. Okay, so we've created the HTML elements for our navbar. Now we need to style them because the navbar is created through CSS. The first thing we need to do is link our CSS file to our HTML document. Okay, and so we'll do that after the title, but in the head. So we'll just type here link. We'll declare the relationship of that link. We're going to call it style sheet. Okay, we're going to declare the type of document, which is text CSS, and finally we're going to add the location of that file, okay, which is style CSS. So now we have made that link, and so the HTML document will read from the CSS file to determine what styles the elements get. So now that we have done that, let us start styling. We're going to start by styling our navbar. Okay, remember navbar is a class, so in CSS we begin with a dot and we state navbar, our curly braces, and we begin our styling. We're going to start first by giving it a background color. We're going to give it a background color of dark green. Okay, so it will be clearly visible, and an overflow, which is extremely important, which will prevent text from going outside of our navbar. We're going to give it an overflow of hidden. Now that we have done that, notice there's an automatic change in our display in our preview. Okay, so what has happened? We have a green background. You notice that. So the next step is to continue giving it this look. So we're going to now style our anchor tags. So to do that, our anchor tags are within our navbar. So we're going to go navbar A for anchor, because we're styling the anchor tags in our navbar. And of course, we're going to add our different styles. So first of all, let us give our text a color. So we're going to give it a color of, let's say, white to make it clear. Okay. Next, we're going to align our text. Let's align our text center. Okay, so that they will appear center in the buttons that we are the illusion of the buttons that we're creating. So we're going to align center. Oh boy, my spelling. Then the next thing we're going to do, oh, that's a mistake. It's supposed to be text align center. Okay, then we're going to add a padding, which will now open up the navbar, so you actually start seeing the effect. So we're going to add a padding of, let's say, 16px and 16px. What it suggests is that the space between the text and the edge of the div will more or less open up. So this is what the padding will do for us. Now let us give our font a size. Font size equals, let's give it 17px. Okay, nice. And finally, let us remove the underlining of the text, which is supposed to indicate the hyperlink. So we'll use text decoration to do that, and we will see none. So you have no text decoration. Automatically this disappears. Okay. For the next step, and to create that effect of that navbar, we're going to float the contents of our anchor tags, and we're going to float it left. And immediately, notice we already have the look of a navigation menu. So what next? I would like to have some separations, a line to separate the different links so that I could create the effect of a button. So I'm just going to give it a border left of, let's say, 1px. I think that's enough. Solid white, so it will be clearly visible. Okay, and so when we go back to it, this is what we get. So far so good. Really looks like a navbar. So we have added our border to the left. To continue the effect of the separation of the buttons, I'm just going to add a border to the right to give you that full separation. So this is what we have thus far. We have the illusion of buttons. We haven't really created, we're not using buttons, but we have created the illusions of buttons, and all of these are clickable. Okay, so what's next? Let us go back to our example and notice when I hover over the buttons, they light up, they're highlighted. Okay, there's a kind of effect. So we want to create that effect. That effect is created using the hover property, and it's very simple. All you need to do, you will just type navbar, let's go, navbar, that's our class, A is the tag, and we want to hover over A. We want the effect to take place when we hover over A. So we're going to use the colon and add the hover effect, okay? And then our curly braces, and we're going to say, we're simply going to change the color of the tag based on the hover action. So we're going to just change the background color to, let's say, white when we hover. Does it work? Let's try it out. It does. Okay, but notice when we hover, we lose the text because the background is white. So we're going to change the color of the text. We use the color option and we're going to change the text to black. So this time when we hover, we see the text. So this is what really gives the effect of animation, but it's simply where you hover, you just change the background color based on that that property, the hover property. So the next step is to create a breadcrumb, which is simply an indication of where the user is on the website. To do that, we're going to create a class called active, and we're going to add that class to the anchor that indicates what page we are on. So here it goes. Again, we're going to use Navbar because Navbar is our parent element. We're going to use our anchor, and then we're going to create a class with the dot this time of active. And this time, we're going to give that class a background color of, let's be adventurous, yellow. Okay, we're going to change the text color, let's say to red. Okay, now notice nothing happens here because we haven't assigned that active class to any of the anchors. So let's go back to our index file, and for the home anchor, let's just give it a class of active. We have a class of active. So let's save that. And notice immediately the home button here is yellow. So this is basically how we create our basic navbar. Again, we use a combination of the different properties, CSS properties. We use the float element, we use the padding element with the padding property, we use the border property, and all it is just smart styling to create that effect. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Next step, we're going to add responsiveness.